What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Big Fight Field channel, where we speak the truth, we're honest, and we give our takes on professional wrestling. It is Wednesday night, March 6th, 2024, and this is your AEW Dynamite review here on the Big Fight Field channel. And holy shit, man. We have a lot to talk about. With tonight's episode of Dynamite. I just want to first start off by saying tonight AEW called this Dynamite the season premiere of AEW Dynamite. The Dynamite after Revolution, a whole new era is beginning in AEW. We have new colors, a new logo, new theme music. It's not the same Dynamite theme music we've been getting for nearly 5 years now. It's a different stage. We're going back to the tunnels, but it's a little bit changed up. But I love it. I got old school 2019 vibes from this episode of Dynamite tonight. And I think it definitely needed a change of scenery. And I love the stage. The stage is phenomenal. And I think the change of scenery is really going to benefit for this show. So tonight, they had an awesome show tonight. I loved tonight's episode of Dynamite. And there was so much good. There was so much good coming out of this show. And the biggest thing out of all of them is the debut of Kazuchika Okada. And Okada left New Japan Pro Wrestling on January 31st. He had his his end of New Japan tour with New Japan Pro Wrestling, and he finished it up a couple weeks ago, and reports came out that he was on his way to AEW, and those reports were true. Kazuchika Okada was in AEW, and now AEW has the 4 best wrestlers in the world, with Will Ospreay, Kenny Omega, when he's healthy, Bryan Danielson, and Kazuchika Okada. That is absolutely crazy. And that goes to show you that AEW might have the most stacked roster ever in all of professional wrestling, especially in my lifetime. I've been a wrestling fan for 15 years. I've been a wrestling fan since 2008. And this is the most stacked professional wrestling roster by a wrestling company ever in my lifetime. I mean, this AEW roster has the 4 best wrestlers in the world. You got Kenny Omega when he's healthy, Will Ospreay, Bryan Danielson, and Kazuchika Okada. Those are the 4 best wrestlers in the world. And then on top of that, you add guys like Swerve, like Hangman Page, Jon Moxley, Orange Cassidy, Darby Allin, FTR. I can go on and on and on. This is by far the best wrestling roster in the entire world right now and for a very long time. Probably ever. So Okada, he made his debut tonight. He's in AEW. What I don't think anybody had on their bingo card for tonight or Okada coming into AEW is Okada being a heel. And not only are we getting a heel Kazuchika Okada, we are getting Kazuchika Okada with the Young Bucks. He is the newest member of the Elite. And we have so much to talk about with that segment. It is March. That was my favorite segment of the entire year in both companies, in AEW and WWE. I might take that back. I don't know if it was better than that promo from, what was it? I think it was the February 12th episode of Raw when Rollins was teasing Cody that we need to team up. That promo, that segment was fucking phenomenal. That was a phenomenal segment. And that was probably one of the best promos Seth Rollins has ever cut in his entire career. But this segment was tremendous. And there was so much accomplished from this promo tonight. I'm very excited to talk about. So that is the main point of tonight's Dynamite, was the debut and really the unexpected heel turn of Okada. There was no sight of Hangman Adam Page. He's been suspended by the Young Bucks in storyline. He got suspended for what he did at Revolution. But meanwhile, Swerve Strickland is still on the chase for the AEW World Championship. And Wardlow and Samoa Joe, they have their match confirmed next week for Big Business. That is shaping up to be one hell of an exciting show next week. And then the main event of tonight's show was Kyle Fletcher against Will Ospreay. That match was excellent. That was an excellent match. And in a span of 3 days, we have one of the best Dynamite matches of the whole year. I'm still giving it to Swerve and Hangman from Phoenix. But right behind it is this match tonight with Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher. There's just no words to describe how incredible Will Ospreay is. And then the cliffhanger. They left us on a cliffhanger tonight. And, man, Bryan Danielson against Will Ospreay. Are you kidding me? I was thinking that was going to be a match for Wembley. But now, we might be getting it earlier. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. We have so much to talk about. I want to thank you guys for joining me tonight. We're going to talk all things AEW, and it's been a very eventful couple days for myself here on the Big Fight Fuel channel. As my phone, I thought was charging, and it wasn't. That's nice. We have the Revolution review, and I made a video about Paul Heyman being inducted into the Hall of Fame. So that was Monday night's video. If you guys haven't already, be sure to go ahead and check that out on the in the previous videos. It'll be up in the last 20 seconds. All you gotta do is click on it. It'll take you right to the video. But of course, don't do that until you are finished the whole duration of this video. Let's get into Dynamite. But before we get into Dynamite, I want to talk about something that broke yesterday. Sammy Guevara was suspended by AEW. Once again, I believe this is the third time since the exception of AEW, since Sammy Guevara has been suspended by the company. This involved a match that happened on Rampage with Jeff Hardy, and Sammy hit a shooting star press off the top of a ladder onto Jeff Hardy, and he landed right on Jeff Hardy's face. Jeff Hardy was concussed. Sammy Guevara continued the match. He hit his finisher on Jeff Hardy while Jeff Hardy was concussed, and they suspended Sammy Guevara because of it. Now, I have so many questions. I did not watch this match. I'm not going to go back and watch this match to speculate all of this. But I have so many questions about this. You can put Sammy Guevara at fault if the doctor or the referee told him to not to pin him or not do your finisher, go home, whatever they say, and he continued to do it, okay, then I understand the suspension. But it seems like Sammy Guevara is the fall guy in this situation. And as I said, if they told him to stop and he kept going, then I totally understand the suspension. But shouldn't it be on the referee to know when someone is hurt or when someone is concussed? Shouldn't it be on the doctor to be there at ringside if someone looks injured, to go in there and tell the referee? I don't feel like, you can't really, I guess, bash Sammy Guevara for this situation, because how would Sammy Guevara know that Jeff Hardy was concussed? The only two people that would know that Jeff Hardy was concussed was the referee inside the ring for that match, if Jeff Hardy was not answering back to him, or the medical doctor on the outside of the ring. So if you're going to suspend Sammy Guevara for however long you were suspending him, why aren't you suspending the referee that was in that match? Why aren't you suspending the doctor that didn't stop the match? I'm just very confused with this situation. It seems like a mess, and I wanted to bring that up because I read it and I'm like, okay, well, there's this scenario, but in reality, how is Sammy Guevara supposed to know if Jeff Hardy's concussed or not? So that happened yesterday, and it got out to social media, and now everybody knows that Sammy Guevara is suspended from AEW. Okay, I wanted to talk about that bit yesterday about Sammy Guevara because it confused me, and I kind of wanted to get it off my chest. But let's talk about Dynamite. Dynamite got a whole new intro, new theme music, a new stage. Just like I told y'all in the beginning of this video, or this review, it looks beautiful. The stage looks really, really nice, and it gives new season premiere vibes, I guess, which is what they called it tonight. To begin the show, we got a very WWE-ish segment, main roster-ish segment from AEW. Swerve came out and he cut a promo, and he cut a total babyface promo. So you should have gotten the indiction that last week with that sneak attack by Hangman, that Swerve is a total babyface. And tonight, he came out of the babyface tunnel to open up the show. And he goes on to say stuff like, in the first time in a very long time, possibly in my life, I felt like the fans were actually cheering for me. They wanted me to win. They wanted me to make history. And he actually had his own folks from his hometown of Seattle, Washington, come out to Greensboro in support of him and wanting to be there for history when Swerve Strickland potentially winning the AEW World Championship. And he said he let those people down. And he let people in the crowd down. And the fans that he felt like were cheering for him for the first time in his career. And it felt like He says, I know that I've done so many wrong things in the past here in AEW. So maybe it's just karma. Karma is coming to play with me now. Karma is coming after me now. But it doesn't mean that I'm going to keep stopping. And the whole story that they try to tell with Swerve here, with Swerve cutting this promo, was I get to the top, I'm at the big match, and I lose. So anytime he has a big championship match, he loses. That's the story they are trying to tell with Swerve Strickland. And he says, I'm not going to stop coming after Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe, he then comes out. He cuts a promo on Swerve. He talks about the Revolution match. And as he's about to walk out, the Undisputed Kingdom's music hit. And excuse me, that was not on purpose. That was not on purpose. I promise you. I love the Undisputed Kingdom. I did not mean to yawn when I said Undisputed Kingdom. I had a very long day. 8-hour work shifts. Long day. Especially working with fourth graders. But I love it. I love it. Out comes the Undisputed Kingdom. And Adam Cole cuts a promo on Joe. He says, Joe wouldn't be the World Heavyweight Champion right now if the Undisputed Kingdom didn't line it up for him. And he says, Swerve is the new hot toy of the month, and everybody loves him. But in reality, everybody's going to forget about him in 6 months. No. It doesn't work that way, Adam Cole. Now, if you were saying that on a WWE main roster promo 3 years ago, then you're absolutely right. Because Vince McMahon loves his hot toys. Look at Otis. He was pushing Otis to the moon. And then he got bored of Otis. He was pushing Austin Theory to the moon. And then he got bored of Austin Theory. That's what Vince does. So if you were talking about 3 years ago in WWE, you might be right there, Mr. Cole. But that's not the case here. Swerve is going to be just fine. He's going to be the world champion. He then talks about the Undisputed Kingdom's prophecy. We said Roderick Strong was going to win the International Championship, and he is standing here today as your International Champion. He said Mike Bennett and Matt Taven will go down as the greatest Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions of all time, and Wardlow is going after the AEW World Championship and is the #1 contender. Which, by the way, I have not seen one post of the rankings in 2 weeks. Which makes me hope that the ranking system is gone. I hope it is. I hope it is, man. But he says once Wardlow challenges and wins the AEW Championship, it's coming home to the Undisputed Kingdom. And he points at himself. And Wardlow does not see this. And then Swerve, he challenges the Undisputed Kingdom to a fight. And then Tony Schiavone in the earpiece, Tony Khan's talking to him, apparently. And he says, we're going to have a tag team match. We're going to do Samoa Joe and Swerve versus any two members of the Undisputed Kingdom. And it ended up being Taven and Bennett. The match went 10 minutes. Samoa Joe got no offense in this match. This was basically a 2-on-1 handicap match with Swerve and the Kingdom. And Swerve pins Matt Taven with the Phantom Driver as he looks at Samoa Joe. After the match, Wardlow comes up on the stage. Swerve is looking at Wardlow, and Samoa Joe puts in the Coquina clutch. And then we get a face-off between Wardlow and Samoa Joe. And as we get that face-off, a big graphic, not just a graphic that appears at the little screen down below. during the main event, we got a big graphic that stated that next week, Samoa Joe is defending the AEW World Championship versus Wardlow. Now, I had thought that they were going to build this up for a couple weeks. I had figured that they were actually going to give Wardlow a story and a big storyline going into this pay-per-view, which is why I said after on the Revolution review, it's a very tough test for AEW and Tony Khan to book a heel versus heel feud. We're not going to get a long 6-week feud with these guys. We're getting this match next week at Big Business, which tells me that Wardlow absolutely stands no chance in winning the World Championship. How we are going to book him to lose this championship match, because he shouldn't lose clean, that's a good question. That is honestly a good question. So, that is next week. And we go from that to FTW rules for the FTW Championship between Hook and Brian Cage. Now, you're not going to believe this one. A lot of people complain that AEW has no stories. However, for the past couple weeks, they've been telling a story with Hook and Brian Cage, and they played it in a video package, which to explain to you why the match is happening. So again, for a second week in a row, AEW plays a video package for why a match is happening, because you idiots don't understand it. So we got Hook and Brian Cage for the FTW Championship. We're going to leave it off here. Both guys are fighting on the outside. Brian Cage brings a chair into the ring. He looks for Hook, and Hook sprays Brian Cage with a fire extinguisher. Brian Cage falls to the outside of the floor, and Hook grabs a trash can lid and starts smacking Brian Cage over the head with a trash can lid. Then we got Hook. He goes to do a dive. He jumps off these steps, and and Brian Cage reverses it into a scoop slam onto the outside. Brian Cage then goes to spear Hook on the outside, and Brian Cage puts himself through the barricade. We go to commercial break, picture-in-picture. Brian Cage is doing all of his offense, doing the picture-in-picture. We come back. They got a guardrail. They got a trash can. They got chairs. They got a kendo stick. We go back. They're fighting in the ring. Hook smacks Brian Cage over the head with a trash can. He then hits an overhead suplex onto the guardrail to Brian Cage, which looked like that fucking sucked. I would have hated taking that bump if I'm Brian Cage. But he was fine. Brian Cage later in the match then brings thumbtacks into the match, and as Brian Cage looks like he's going to slam Hook onto the thumbtacks, Hook takes a kendo stick, he hits it over the head of Brian Cage, and Hook gives a over the head suplex to Brian Cage, who lands onto the thumbtacks. And this finish, I thought this finish was very creative. I loved this finish. Hook has the Red Rum submission hold in on Brian Cage, right? And he's got the submission hold on Brian Cage. The thumbtacks are down there. Brian Cage, he jumps. Hook lands on the thumbtacks, and he still keeps a hold on it, which that made Hook like a fucking badass. And Brian Cage passed out. After the match, the Gates of Agony, they attacked Hook. Chris Jericho came down for the save, and that was that. So I thought that match was really good. I really enjoyed the match between Hook and Cage. It seems like both of them are moving on, and it seems like Hook is moving on to a possible feud against Chris Jericho, which I love Hook. I think Hook is a great wrestler, but in 2024, and I talked about this with Cameron Johnson last week, in 2024, I don't care about Chris Jericho. Getting the rub from Chris Jericho is not special anymore. So it seems like we're going to get a feud between Jericho and Hook. We got an impromptu match between Luchasaurus and Daddy Magic, Matt Menard. This was not the point of the segment. We're going to get to it in a little bit. Luchasaurus beats Daddy Magic in about 4 minutes. They attack Daddy Magic after the match. Daniel Garcia tries to come out for the save. Nick Wayne immediately runs in the ring. He's got a 2-on-1 beatdown. And they take out Daniel Garcia. They take out Daddy Magic. The Patriarchy are celebrating on the ring ramp until Adam Copeland makes his return for the first time since he got concertoed in Austin, Texas. And he throws Luchasaurus off the stage through a table. He gives a execution to Nick Wayne. He then stares down Christian Cage, and Mama Wayne goes for the low blow. Adam Copeland caught her right-handed and turned his attention to Christian Cage, and Christian Cage run away like a bitch. Running in the backstage area, he ran all the way outside. He stole someone's car, and he drove off. Adam Copeland then cut a promo to the camera, and he says, "This is going on for way too long between myself and Christian Cage, and I want this to end. And this is going to end where it started. And in 2 weeks, on Dynamite, not next week, but in 2 weeks, and it's on in 2 weeks because they're going to be in Toronto on March 20th. So in 2 weeks, it's going to be Adam Copeland versus Christian Cage for the TNT Championship in an I Quit match." I love it. I love it. We're actually planning matches on future shows ahead, not just next week, but in multiple weeks. Hopefully, people seeing that match, Adam Copeland against Christian Cage in an I Quit match. It's in Toronto. I want to see that. Hopefully, that'll help sell tickets for that Toronto show. But match 3 to end this feud, man, with this being an I Quit match, I just don't see Adam Copeland losing. So it might be time that Adam Copeland is legitimately going to win the TNT Championship. So we'll see what happens. Seems like the culmination is going to be in 2 weeks, which I'm excited about. I'm very excited. All right, so now we get to the biggest topic of the whole show. And before I get to that, they cut to the Young Bucks backstage earlier in the show. This is right after the whole Swerve Joe Kingdom stuff. They cut a promo like they're about to make an announcement. And they mimicked Tony Khan, which I found funny. But back to the business. Tony Schiavone is in the ring with them. He says, "Let's talk about that ass kicking you guys took on Sunday." And Nicholas immediately got furious at Tony Schiavone. And he's like, get out of our ring. We're trying to move past that. Sting and Darby Allin cheated, involving Sting's sons in that match. Both of them are 6'8", 305 pounds. We didn't ask for a 4-on-2 match. We asked for a tag team match. So, it's just them being absolute pricks. But we move past that, says Matthew. And they talk about this tag team tournament now that Sting is retired and Darby Allin later on, which we'll talk about. He laid down the AEW Tag Team Championship. So the Young Bucks have thrown their hat into this tag team title tournament that we have coming up. They say, unfortunately, we have 2 announcements. And we've as EVPs of AEW, we have to really make some tough decisions. And as you guys know, Hangman Page, he was not nice at the pay-per-view. That's the way he described it. He said not nice. And he put hands on not 1, but 2 AEW officials. And therefore, the Young Bucks, the EVPs, decide that they are going to suspend Hangman Adam Page. And I believe it was Nick that says, sorry, Hanger. And then also in that announcement, they talked about Kenny Omega. And they said, for numerous weeks now, close to months, you have been missing scheduled dates, and you haven't shown up. And how ironic, because Kenny Omega has diverticulitis, and back in the day, if something like this happened, he would get kicked. He would have gotten fired for something like that. But Kenny Omega is kicked out of the Elite, say the Young Bucks, because he hasn't been appearing in scheduled appearances. And in reality, he is recovering from diverticulitis. And then this brings out Eddie Kingston. And Eddie Kingston is like, all right, cut the music. Which one is the hothead? And Matt points to Nicholas, and he says, here's my fine already, because I'm already going to say some shit about you. And Nicholas immediately gets furious, and they start brawling, and Nicholas gives Eddie Kingston a low blow, and Matthew has no choice but to join in on this attack. And while they are attacking Eddie Kingston, out comes the Rainmaker, Kazuchika Okada. He comes out. He's in this very fancy suit, and he looks like he is going to be standing side by side with Eddie Kingston. But instead, he tricks Eddie Kingston, and he hits Eddie Kingston with a Rainmaker. Okada is getting booed. I couldn't believe it. Okada got booed. And AEW did something tonight. Tony Khan did something tonight that was not on my bingo card. And that is bringing in Kazuchika Okada as a heel. And the way that that Tony Khan described it, if I could find it, is Okada is officially all Elite and the newest member of the Elite and business partners with the Young Bucks. And as soon as Okada hit the Rainmaker on Eddie Kingston, Nicholas announced our last announcement, our replacement for Kenny Omega and the newest member of the Elite is Kazuchika Okada. So Okada is a heel, and he's in a faction with the Young Bucks. or a trio with the Young Bucks. I gotta give my round of applause. This segment was incredible. Incredible. They accomplished so much in this segment. First of all, Kazuchika Okada has his first feud in AEW. He took out Eddie Kingston tonight. He's going to be feuding with Eddie Kingston here on out. And for the Dynasty pay-per-view coming up on April 21st. If you guys didn't realize, if you look at the poster of it, the wrestlers on that poster, they are all champions. So I'm thinking that this Dynasty pay-per-view is going to be AEW's version of Night of Champions. This is AEW's version of Night of Champions. So I think on that show, every championship in AEW is going to be defended. And what a perfect time to do Kazuchika Okada challenging Eddie Kingston for the Continental Crown Championship. So that you accomplished. That's one. Number two, you established Kazuchika Okada and the Young Bucks as one of the top heel factions or trios in AEW. This is only going to make the Bucks EVP gimmick better. It's going to make for better television and better stories. Their storyline with Sting was a home run. And now you add Okada to the mix. I can't wait to see what happens. And then the third and final one. Obviously, if I had to guess, I'm not going to try to speculate when Kenny Omega is going to be back. I shouldn't speculate a timetable. You watching shouldn't speculate a timetable. But I have to guess that Kenny Omega is doing better than he was in the beginning. Because if he was not doing well, they would not have mentioned his name tonight in this segment. But he must be recovering very well because they mentioned Kenny Omega twice in this segment with kicking him out, and then they said the replacement for Kenny Omega. If Kenny Omega is able to make a healthy recovery and he can be back, again, I hate doing timetables because diverticulitis is so serious. If he has a timetable to be back by All In, you have yourself a match at All In. Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada for the Continental Crown Championship. So there you go. Okada is in AEW. He's with the Young Bucks. Now, let the games begin. Let the games begin, baby. Chris Statlander against Riho. Again, I know I said this last week. I gotta apologize to Chris Statlander because I made my dessert during her match last week, and I did it again this week. But don't worry. I saw the ending. Stokely threw a chain into the ring. Stokely wanted Chris Statlander to use that chain. She refused to use the chain. And then Riho rolled her up for the win. And Chris Statlander looked very pissed. I'm telling you, the heel turn's coming. And we're also getting Willow Nightingale one-on-one with Riho next week. The final segment before the main event. Darby Allin. Darby Allin was out there with Tony Schiavone. And he had a back-and-forth promo with Jay White. It was good. They were promoting their match next week. I think Jay White should win Darby Allin has no reason of winning that match now since he's going away to climb Mount Everest. That's the one thing I want to talk about. I'm praying for Darby Allin. I hope Darby Allin makes it up to the top of the mountain safe and makes it all the way down safe. Because he mentioned tonight that he wanted to thank the fans for everything that they did for him, and he hopes that he made them proud throughout the 4 years. And he said, just in case I don't survive Mount Everest. And man, that I'm praying for Darby Allin, man. He's got this match next week against Jay White, and then he's off to climbing Mount Everest. And we're probably not going to see Darby Allin for the rest of 2024. If that's my guess, is we are not going to see Darby Allin for the rest of the year. I hope he's able to do what he wants and climb to the top of Mount Everest and plant the AEW flag on top of Mount Everest. He's always wanted to do that. And I don't know how long he's been training for, but all I hope is he just makes it to the he's safe. I'm sure he'll have a whole entire crew and support team with him, but I mean, I would be lying if I told you this is not scary. Because I've seen documentaries that most people who get on top of Mount Everest, they never come back. They die on top of that mountain. And that's very scary. So prayers to Darby Allin. He's got a match next week against Jay White at Big Business. As I said, we have Willow Nightingale against Riho. We have Wardlow against Samoa Joe for the AEW World Championship. And then, as you guys know, we're probably getting Mercedes Moné next week in Boston. Very First Dance-esque. Maybe she opens the show like the way Punk did at the First Dance. And then finally, the main event. Will Ospreay against Kyle Fletcher. This match was excellent. If it wasn't for Swerve and Hangman, I'd advise you to go and watch. If it wasn't for Swerve and Hangman, this would be the best Dynamite match of the whole year. I advise you to go and watch this. I'm not going to go over this match too much because I'm absolutely exhausted and I'm tired and I kind of want to get out of here. But we'll go over it a little bit. We're just getting back from commercial break. Ospreay hit his Pele kick onto Kyle Fletcher, and he goes for his dive onto the outside, and he connects. He connects with the dive onto Fletcher. Inside the ring, Ospreay goes for Os Cutter. Fletcher saw it coming. He hits a German suplex onto Will Ospreay. He then hits a drop kick into the corner onto Ospreay, and then a nasty-looking brainbuster. Ospreay was selling his back from that turnbuckle spot he took from Takeshita at the pay-per-view. He was selling that spot. He was selling the back during this match with Kyle Fletcher. Ospreay, he was in a chop exchange with Kyle Fletcher. And Ospreay, he exposed himself. Arms behind his back. He gave Kyle Fletcher a free shot. Kyle Fletcher gave him a super kick to the face. He then Irish whipped him. Ospreay stopped, and he gave Kyle Fletcher a rolling forearm into a hook kick, and then he got caught by Kyle Fletcher into an electric chair, and Kyle Fletcher hit a sit-out powerbomb onto Will Ospreay, and my God, Will Ospreay got height while sitting on Kyle Fletcher. Both guys are on the turnbuckle, or on the outside, and Ospreay hits the Os Cutter, and then he goes in the ring and he hits another Os Cutter, and Kyle Fletcher kicks out. Both of them exchanging elbows. Ospreay jumps off Kyle Fletcher's chest into an enziguri. Kyle Fletcher gives him a heel kick on the turnbuckle, and he then gives him they both reverse tombstone pile drivers, and Ospreay counters it into a poison Rana. Fletcher lifts him up, and Ospreay hits a poison Rana. Now they're on the top rope, and this is the end of the match. Kyle Fletcher's looking for a suplex. He's got Ospreay up, but Ospreay reverses it. He super kicks Kyle Fletcher, and he then goes up to the top rope, and he hits a avalanche poison Rana to Kyle Fletcher to the inside of the ring. Hidden blade over. And then after the match, Bryan Danielson comes out. And that's the way the show ended. They gave us a cliffhanger. And a tease of a Will Ospreay, Bryan Danielson match. And I got to give it up to Kyle Fletcher. Excellent match against Will Ospreay. I remember with Ospreay, or with Bryan Danielson, not Ospreay, I'm sorry. With Bryan Danielson coming into AEW, I'm like, I'm not going to take any Bryan Danielson match for granted in AEW. And I remember being in the crowd in Miami. He wrestled Bobby Fish in the main event, and he had a very good match. And then the very next week, he wrestled Dustin Rhodes. And that match was fucking awesome. And after I watched his match with Dustin Rhodes, I'm like, I'm not taking any more Bryan Danielson matches for granted. And I'm not taking any Will Ospreay matches for granted either. This man is unfucking believable. He's the best wrestler in the world. And I thought they would save this match between Ospreay and Danielson at Wembley Stadium. But if now, they're probably going to do this sooner rather than later. They teased it tonight. Whether that happens at Dynasty or whether that happens at Double or Nothing, I don't care. I would buy whatever show it happens on. I would buy the pay-per-view just for that. Just for that match. But now, the vision is clear. Okada is not going after the World Championship. It wouldn't make sense for him to go after the World Championship. He's going to go after Eddie Kingston. He's going to go after the Continental Crown. He's going to win that belt. Okada does not need to be in the conversation for the world title. The vision is clear. Ospreay needs to win the World Championship at Wembley Stadium. I don't care who the champion is. It could be Samoa Joe. It can be Swerve. It can be Bryan Danielson. Ospreay needs to go into Wembley Stadium, the challenger for the AEW World Championship, and he needs to walk out victorious as the new AEW World Champion. That's all I got for you, man. I loved tonight's episode of Dynamite, but I am exhausted. I'm getting sleepy eyes. I'm going to upload this video, upload the review, and hit go to bed. Go to bed for the night. Thank you guys so much for joining. Be sure to subscribe to the Big Five Fuel channel. We'll have a video on Friday because the tag team match between Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins versus The Rock and Roman Reigns, that's going to be made official on Friday. I want to talk about that. I want to give my thoughts on that. So I'm going to make a video on Friday. And then I'm going to Florida for 6 days. I'm only going to be making one video, and it's going to be Big Business. I will make time to review Big Business on Wednesday night. I will make time for it, hopefully. So, that's that. Be sure to comment below. Hit the like button if you like what you heard from me. Follow me on Twitter, Colin_Joseph. You guys know the deal. I'm out of here. I will see you Friday night for the next video. And have a good night. Stay safe. And as always, stay classy. And I'm out. Peace. I'm out.